Looks like I'm getting some feedback. So today, where is our blog? All right, so today we are looking at creating custom ribbons, so ribbon modification, be able to modify the ribbon in such a way that the ribbon modification follows the workbook that goes with it. So let's just go ahead and do that. There's a file to download for today, some files to look at, or some links to look at, but first I want to take a look at this file here. You can do this along with me with any of your assignments. Of course, you know that when you open an assignment from this class, it has a ribbon modification. Almost all of them have ribbon modifications built into them. Now, the other thing we're seeing today is how to make add-ins. And you know that add-in, the Atlas, I forget what it's called, but you know that add-in we added at the beginning of the semester to be able to manage your assessments, it has a ribbon built into it as well. Works just the same way as this, but then there's also another ribbon tab that goes with each of these assignments. So I just downloaded the Big Boggle assignment, and we're going to look at something because the file structure that enables this, that the way that ribbons are done in Excel, it turns out there's something really strange about the Excel file structure. Like prior to 2007, the Excel file structure was some kind of proprietary structure that it wasn't published, but it was like binary file. And you know, Microsoft isn't like letting the world know like what's the structure of that file. You know, smart people figured out what it was and they could like duplicate those files. But in 2007, they said, you know what, we're going to use a different format. And from 2007 on, the workbook format is true for Word files as well and PowerPoint files. It's actually a zip archive of a whole bunch of XML files. Now, when I say zip archive, show me on a scale of 0 to 5 how comfortable you are with that expression. 0, 0, 3. Okay, so compressed folder. So the idea of a compressed folder, that's the same thing. That's a zip archive. So the idea is, I don't know, we need a whole lot of history on that, but basically we take a whole bunch of files and we compress them so they don't take up as much space and we put them into a single file. It's easier to move kind of sets of files around that way. That's why the compression technology was built. It was first made not to make files smaller, but to be able to say, I've got a bunch of files I want to move together as a single file. And after they did that, it was like, you know what, there's a lot of overlap in what's here. Maybe we can actually make this smaller for the purposes of transmission. And so even though this ends with .xlsm, what it really is, it's a .zip file. It really is. I'm going to do something that's strange. You almost would never, ever do this. I'm going to change the name of this file. I'm going to get rid of the XLSM and I'm going to change it to ZIP. It's like an absurd thing to do. And the only reason it's meaningful is because that really is the underlying structure of this file. Now, Windows is going to complain at me. Are you sure you want to do that? Yeah, I'm really sure. Okay, so now I'm just going to go ahead. We could just go look at this, but I'm going to go ahead and extract it. So I'm going to just right click and say extract all. And somewhere, I think that gave me a window. Here it is. Extract all. Where am I going to put it? I'll just put it in this folder with the same name. That's fine. I'll say extract. So now it has uncompressed that single file and made it into a folder here that has multiple files in it. So this then it's that Excel workbook now extracted into its component files. And so it has here, let's just kind of look at Excel first. So apparently under Excel, there's a folder called worksheets, and there was only one worksheet in this. And I should be able to open this and make some sense of it. This is Big Boggle. I don't remember what Big Boggle had on it. That's the worksheet, Alt Z. That's a really beautiful worksheet. So this is all the information. What does this say? Row. So here's column. We could, if we knew a little bit more about what this worksheet looked like, we could actually come in here and change this, rezip it up, and it would really change the workbook. We're not going to do that at the moment. But the point is those files are all in there. There's probably one called shared strings. Shared strings is like text that's in any workbook. Numbers actually go in the worksheet files. Strings go in this other one. So yeah, so you remember that big Boggle assignment had a grid of like 25 letters on it. Is this it here? E, T, yeah. So there's count 25, and these are those letters. They're not, only 14 of them are unique. And so the whole point here is that if you've got the same string in multiple places, it stores it once, and then it says the string is, over here. That's just the underlying structure of the file. Now, what I want to come to is, back up to the first level, is there is this custom UI folder, and this is where the ribbon happens. And so I'm going to kind of open up this one, and here's custom UI.xml. I'm gonna go ahead and open that somewhere that we can see the file. And so this is the file. We have to get this file into place inside that zip archive to be able to put a ribbon modification into the workbook. Listen, before 2007, in the old file structure, like modifying ribbons was blindingly easy, and it wasn't a ribbon, it was just a menu, but like putting a custom menu up in the Excel menu and putting choices on it, making it do stuff, you could do it all through VBA. And when they changed the file format to include the ribbon, that functionality was gone from VBA. And we thought, well, they'll probably bring it around eventually. They never did. Like, hey, good news, you can customize these ribbons. And then it's like, oh, great, Microsoft, how do you do it? And then like step 1, change the name of the file to .zip. Step 2, extract it. Step 3, add a folder called custom UI. Step 4, add a text file called custom UI.xml and put all this stuff in it. You're kidding. Like, you are kidding. That's what you have to do. And they're all, no, that's what you have to do. And so this is really interesting. It's interesting because, number one, this is absurdly difficult to do. I'm going to show you, we're going to make it easy. We're going to make it pretty easy today. But that's the bad news. The bad news is really hard. But the good news is this is really hard. The reason that's good news is because once you learn how to do this, you will be like one of the very, very few people in the world that know how to do this. And other people will go, oh my gosh, how did you do that? Well, I just had to create a custom ribbon XML file and inject it into the underlying Excel file structure. And so, you'll be able to flex on people quite a bit. I'd be able to add your own ribbons here. Now, the good news is, even though that process that I told you, you got to change the name of the file, extract it, and then go work with it. That's how we used to have to do it. And I'm going to be showing you some software where some people have said, you know what, let's kind of streamline this process. Let's write some software that will do the heavy lifting of this. So even though there will be some work for us to do, we will have to work directly in the XML. We don't have to do all that unzipping and rezipping and so forth. Okay, question. Oh, yeah. The question is, how do I change that Excel file from being an Excel file to being a zip file? And all I did was change the name. Let me come back to my downloads. And so it's right here. I'll change it back just by changing it back to .xlsx, xls, was it M or it must be M, xlsm. I'll change it, yes. Okay, so literally to make it so I could extract that file, all I did was change the file name. I changed the xlsx or the xlsm to .zip. Right. Oh, yeah, so you may not even see the file extension. Now, it turns out, since Windows 8, I think, maybe Windows 7, Microsoft said, you know what? This whole file extension is confusing to a lot of people. We're going to make it so when you just look at the files, you don't see, when you just like look at the list of files, you don't see the file extension. That's good for my mother. You don't really want my mother seeing the file extensions because you're saying, hey, I called that spreadsheet budget. Why is it called budget.xlsx? I didn't put xlsx on it. She'll go and delete it off and then wonder why your spreadsheet doesn't work anymore. And so they thought, you know what? If you're comfortable with extensions, you're probably comfortable with figuring out how to show the extensions. And so that's what they did. So here's how you do it. So I'm going to come here to now. Are you on Windows 10 or Windows 11? It's a little bit different on Windows 11, and I don't remember it well enough to show you. Here's how you do it on Windows 10. Come to View, over here to, wait a minute, I think there's an option. File extensions. I think it's the same in Windows 11 too. There's a checkbox for file name extensions. Click that, and then you'll see those file name extensions. And then you can edit them. Yeah. Yeah, you as highly trained computing professionals should show your file extensions. You can handle those. Okay, but again, we won't have to actually do that for this. I was just showing you that underlying structure. It was mind-blowing to me when I first found out that's what an Excel file is. Just crazy. Okay, so let's go ahead then and come back to our blog. And let me first just kind of point you to this site. We're not going to do much with this link, but this link is a link that's worth having. So this link, the Ron de Bruin page. So Ron de Bruin is some guy from the Netherlands. And he was like the first one to really publish a good website on ribbon modification. Like in 2007, like right after the new format was released, he was up saying, hey, this is what you have to do to modify the ribbon. And he's really kept this up and maintained. Apparently he's a Mac guy because there's a lot of Mac tips on this as well for like using Excel in the Mac. And so if you're saying, wow, Professor, I'd really like to do more than what you showed us about modifying ribbon, and there's a lot of stuff you can do with the ribbon. This is probably the best resource for that. So let's see, Excel automation. In fact, this is his site, but where's the ribbon stuff? Critical search about, oh, here it is. Change the ribbon in Excel 2007 and up. I guess that's where we are here. So he talks through, and he's got scads of examples that you can download and work with. And so I'm just going to point you to that, even though we're not going to really deal with it in class, but we are going to use this second link. So the second link, the Ribbon X Editor, is a project that someone wrote. I guess it was Fernandru. I guess it was Fernandru. What's his name? Did I say? Fernando Andrew said, you know what, let's just make a program that does that part for you, that will unzip the file, insert the file in the right structure, and then give you an example in there to work with. And then when you save it, rezip it back up as a zip file. So we're going to use the program that he wrote to open our Excel workbook, modify it, and then save it. But having nothing to do with Excel, only having to do with the ribbon editor. Why didn't Microsoft do this? Or why hasn't Microsoft yet done this? I don't know, but this guy has. So we're going to just come down here and download and install. Now, I don't have permissions to install on this computer, but fortunately, he gives us like the binary files as well. I think I'm going to choose this one. Let's see. If I were installing this on my own computer, I would probably choose the self-contained installer, this bottom one, 48 megabytes, that's kind of big. But then I think this one, remember how we had to do that .NET framework we had to install for what tool was that we were using? I forgot. Oh, for Selenium. This one's going to require something similar, and it may be a different library, but I think if you did this one here and installed it, it would just come down. I am going to choose this one, I think, for myself. And I'm just going to download and extract. And I think that's going to give me an executable file that I don't even have to install to be able to use. So let me extract that and see if that works. Extract all. Extracting Ribbon X Editor. I need the .NET framework. I'm not sure this is going to let me do it. I know I've done this from this computer before, but you see there's a different option over here. .NET framework binaries. Try this one as well. We just go through the process to get that. It should be a fairly normal software installation process. Let me try this one. Oh, good. Okay, so that one worked for me. So the one that I just did that worked was this one, the binaries. Like that, again, for that one, there's no install process. If you do one of these, it's an installer. It'll take you through the normal install process. This one will just extract the files, and you'll have to open the file that's named Office Ribbon X Editor. This is the program that we're trying to get up. How many of you have successfully opened this program? Okay, so quite a few of you. Who is saying, "Oh, it's not working for me. Could you give me a hand?" Come and take a look. Oh yeah, it's not going to work on Mac. You're running Mac OS here. I'll just do it. Yeah. Anyone else? You can do it by hand on Mac. Extract the file, go put the file structure in place. Okay. So let's take a look at the file that we're going to work with. So that should be the other Excel file that we downloaded. Do I have it open already? So you'll remember when we worked with the census data, we made it so we build the charts. I don't think this is exactly the file that we worked on before, but it's one that's really similar to that. So if I look at the code for this file, there's a couple things I wouldn't mind having a button for. So let's see. There's make chart. I think the make chart, oh yeah, so make chart happens, that's right. We selected this and then we had to like press a hotkey to be able to make the chart. So what I'd like to do is put a button in the ribbon that allows us to make the chart and to put a button in the ribbon that allows us to clear the charts off. And maybe we'll put a button in the ribbon to clear the data off as well. Clear the chart, so maybe we'll make 3 buttons for that. All right, now it turns out that we now have this single file, this chart ribbon file. We're going to open both in Excel and we're going to open in that ribbon editor program. These programs will allow us to have this one file open in both of them at the same time. That is a bad idea. It's much better off to say, and if your mind was really focused on what you were doing, you could probably say, yeah, I'm going to make this change. I know it's not going to affect the other file that's already open, but don't do that. You're much better saying, I'm going to only have this workbook open in one of those environments at a time. So I'm going to close it from here. And then I'm going to go open that file using the ribbon editor. So open, that was in my downloads, called charts ribbon W23. So I'm opening the Excel workbook right here, but it is not going to show anything about the workbook because it's just about the ribbon. Custom ribbon. I wasn't expecting to see this. Oh, now I remember. This file must have been made from a template that I had made a while ago. I was doing some work for a colleague at another university. He was saying, when I give my students an Excel test, I do not want them to have the help menu. And I said to him, that's absurd. Help is a part of Excel. You know, why would you ever turn off help? I want to know if they really know how to do it. So with a little bit of searching, we found out, yeah, you know what? You could put a ribbon modification that takes the help tab and makes it invisible. That's what this did. I didn't mean to have this in the file that you guys opened. So what we're going to do is we're going to delete that. So I'm just going to right click and remove over here where it says custom UI 14. Right click and remove. I'll remove it. Yeah. So this is how it should normally, when you open up a workbook you haven't worked on before, this is how it will look. You've got the workbook and that's it. So what we need to do is we need to add in the file to be able to do this ribbon modification. So I'm going to right click here and I've got two options. So I can insert a 2007 custom UI part or for 2010 or greater. You can imagine that when they changed to the ribbon interface in 2007, it was a huge change. It was a huge change to Microsoft Office. And it looks like they kind of after they did that, they were like, oh, you know what? We really should have done some things differently. So by 2010, there was a different specification. So like back in the day, you know, say, wow, if someone's going to open this in 2007, they're going to get they could only open the one that was available for 2007. Do any of you know anyone who's using Office 2007? Yeah, you do. If you're making something that someone's going to have to open in 2007, you've got to use this one, Office 2007 Custom UI part. Otherwise, you can use this one. The truth is, what we're doing would work exactly the same whether it was 2007 or 2010. It does not matter which one you choose. But if you're thinking, yeah, this has to work on 2007, then you've got to go with this one. I'm going to use 2010 just because, if you're using 2007, you don't get my menu modification. That's it. So then that has created this file. Now this file is actually open right here. Now it's a little bit strange, and it's not especially clear what's going on here, but we now have that file, which is right here. I think. Oh no, I have to double click it, and then that will open it. So we can see that over here as a custom UI 14.xml. Now, I'm going to close it here because I do not want to have to start typing this from scratch. It used to be that I would have students go copy some example off of the Ron de Bruin site and then paste it in here. But this tool has since gotten over here on insert. There's a nice little thing that we can insert. So I'm going to come to insert, and they've got some sample XML that you can insert. And oh, look at this, Excel, a custom tab. And so I'm going to plug in Excel, a custom tab, and that will, let's see, this will insert the sample. Yeah, that's fine. And so that now has given me a starting point for this ribbon modification. The zoom factor over here, I'll zoom in a bit. Okay. Professor Allen, we really have to work like by hand in the XML? And the answer is yes, but it's not terrible. Let's take a look at it. So the way XML works is it says, all right, we've got some tab here called custom UI, and that's the opening tag, and everything that's a part of that is in between the opening tag and the closing custom UI. So the / custom UI tab, so all this is part of the custom the custom user interface structure. This one says, hey, we're modifying the ribbon. Are there things we can modify about the user interface besides the ribbon? There may be. I don't know what they are, but this is saying this is narrowed down to the ribbon. And then this is all the tabs that are on that ribbon. Okay, so now this one is where they're making a new tab. So we're gonna put a new tab in here. Each thing that we make has to have a unique ID. And so called custom tab, as long as you don't have two tabs or anything with the ID of custom tab, we should be okay. Label is then what is going to show on that, like what's the label of the tab going to be. Now we're going to be changing this for our ribbon, for our charts. So why don't we call it, I'll just call this census. That's going to be the census ribbon, because we're going to have a couple of tools dealing with charts, like creating a chart and deleting all the charts. And then we'll have one tool for managing the data. Okay. And then insert after. So this is going to go after, this is going to go as the second tab. It's going to go after tab home. I don't think I like that. I think I want it to go at the very end. And that's where they will go if I don't tell it where to go. So I'm just going to get rid of this insert after part. And so it'll just show up at the far right-hand corner. You start putting tabs in the middle of the other tabs and people can't find them. They're not expecting to look between two existing Excel tabs to find a new tab that you have plugged in. Okay, so this next little tag right here, in fact, anytime we have a tag that doesn't contain anything else in XML, then there's no closing tag. Instead of having a / closing tag, you just put a / at the end of the tag. So this one doesn't contain anything else. It's just saying, hey, put in this here. And it's saying there is an existing Microsoft Office ID called Group Clipboard. Can you guess what that is? Which group that is on a tab? You come back and just open up a new file. Right here, this is the clipboard group. And so what that is saying is on my new custom tab, bring in the existing group. Like I can take like some group from some other ribbon and just drop it in here. Yeah, that's how you do it. You got to track down what the ID of it is, and I'll show you what those are here in just a little bit. I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to leave that one in just so we can see it in the example, but I don't really want the font in there. And now this is the one that we're creating. So we're going to take a close look at that one, but I'm going to get rid of these other three. This is where we're bringing in other existing groups from other tabs. I don't want them. I don't really want the clipboard one there either, but I'm going to leave that in just so that we have that in the example and we can see how it works. So what it's saying is that in this tab, this brand new tab that I'm making, we're going to have two groups. One is an existing group. And then the next one here is a brand new group that we're making from scratch. So I'm not going to call this custom group. I'm going to call this chart group. And then instead of Contoso tools, I'm going to call it chart tools. Oh, and we've got now three buttons. I only want 2 buttons on this. And I'm okay leaving the ID as custom button 1 for both of these. Now the label is going to be what is showing on the, like underneath by the tool. So let's go back to Excel. I lost my Excel. So right, we're going to make these large. So it's like this. It's going to be this size of button. And so the label is the part that's going to show by the button. So for this, I'm going to say this one, make chart. And for the next one, I'll call this delete all charts, or I'll call it clear charts. They have 2 sizes, large and, take a guess, large and extra large. No, it's large and normal. So if you want it to be not large, you make it normal. It reminds me like the sizes of olives. You know what the smallest size of olive you can buy is? Like in the store, grocery store. Come and buy a can of olives. What's the smallest one you can get? Medium is the smallest olive there is. And they go to medium, large, extra large, giant, colossal. I mean, that's like the sizing for olives. It's kind of the same thing here. Okay, now on action is going to be the name of a VBA subprocedure to run when the user clicks on the button. Now, we already have something that makes charts and clears the charts, but there's going to be an extra requirement for this function because the ribbon is going to pass a parameter to the function. So I don't really care what those are called. I'm going to make new functions and we'll have to write the functions or the subprocedures to be able to work with these. So I'm going to call this X, because what we're doing here, see how this is called the ribbon X editor up here? Like this ability to modify the ribbon is what Microsoft refers to as ribbon X. And so I'm just going to call this, start with an X, and then I'm going to say make chart. And the X to me is a little prefix that lets me know, okay, this is responding to a ribbon. X clear charts. Okay, now this next one here is image MSO. Anytime you see the MSO in this environment, it stands for Microsoft Office. And so it's saying there are some images that are pre-built that you can just hook up to and use if only you knew what they were called. But I think this is a pretty good place. Let's go ahead and pause right here. We're going to save this and we're going to come and see what this has done, because this is actually going to put some existing images onto this. One more thing before we save, I'm going to come to this next button over here that says generate callbacks. What I've just said is I've said, hey, I'm going to be creating a couple of subprocedures, and this is their name. Well, the structure of those subprocedures is kind of specific, and so this tool is going to make those for us. It does not have the ability to inject VBA into this project. Microsoft has done everything it can to make that impossible to do. So what it does is it says, well, we'll just let you copy them, and then you can just like copy and paste these into your workbook. In an older version of the ribbon editor, you would copy it and then it would like actually lose it off the clipboard. So I'm going to make sure that I've got this in Notepad. I'm just going to open up Notepad and paste it here just because I'm always worried that it won't actually copy. And then one other thing that's probably a good idea before we close is right here where it says validate. I'm just going to click on validate, and it's going to look over and it's going to see if I've made any mistakes, because if I've missed a quote or don't have a closing tag or I missed a slash, this is not going to work at all. So it says my XML is well formed, validate. Now, if you're clicking validate and it's giving you an error message, we got to get that fixed before we move on. And so I'm pretty good with XML, so I can probably find it pretty quickly. Anyone getting an error? Okay. I've copied the callback. I've validated my XML. I'm ready to save. I'm going to save this and I'm going to close it. Here's what would happen if I left this open. It's a temptation, leave this open. I could go open up and I could start editing my XML file. And then even if I was to close that and come back here and change the ribbon, this thing hasn't incorporated any changes that I've made in that workbook. So I'm just going to close it. I'm going to leave it open, but I'm going to close. So is there a close? Open? No, there's a way to close. Close current document, Control W. All right, now I'm going to go reopen that in Excel. So that was my charts ribbon W23. And if everything went well, I should have a custom ribbon now that says census up here in the upper right-hand corner. And it should have the group for the clipboard group, and it should have my custom group on it as well. So here's a custom group, or here's the existing group. And then here's the two that I've made, make chart and clear charts. And because of the ID of the image, that image MSO that was there, it said, oh, bring in these existing ones that are here already from, like, just built into Microsoft Office. Let's take a look at how we can see what the options are for the built-in icons. I'm going to come back to our blog, and that's going to be our next link, Microsoft Office image names. So this is just a PDF that someone, probably Coke Cabinet, I don't know who made this, but it was a huge amount of work to go through and like make a document that showed these pictures with all the items. Now, these look a little bit different. These are probably the way they were in 2010. And as Microsoft kind of advances, they make a new kind of look to Excel. These images change, but they're usually pretty close to what you're seeing here. So like it is page after page of the existing icon, and there's the name of that's the MSO, it's the image MSO thing that we need. So this is dealing with charts. I'm just going to kind of look until I see something that looks like a chart. Oh, here's one right here. Make chart, 3D chart, column chart. These are column charts. I like this one. So I'm just going to take this one right here, 3D column chart. That's what I have to put in to be able to bring that icon onto my button. So I'm going to copy that. I'm going to come back here and close my Excel workbook. And then reopen my workbook here in the ribbon. And I'm just going to change that first one from bold to that chart 3D column chart. Now, to delete the chart, oh boy, I wonder if there's something that looks like deleting the chart. You would think with so many icons pre-built, there's one that's going to do just what you want. But it's surprising how many times I've gone through this and went, oh yeah, there's just not one. Say that again. There's an X with a sheet. Delete sheet. It doesn't really matter what it is. It should be something. I'm going to copy this one. That's my best contender so far. I'm just going to try. Is there something that looks like delete chart? You know what? I wonder if I can search this. Oh, nice. Let me just look everywhere it says chart. Maybe there's a delete chart. Let me know if you see anything that looks like a chart getting deleted. Am I back to the top already? No. There's 157 of them. Chart. Nothing looks like delete. Well, I guess we'll go with a delete sheet, which I already have copied. I'm almost there. Nothing for deleting a chart. Saw some deletes close, 53, that's it. Okay, delete sheet it is. So I'm going to come here and change that one to delete sheet or sheet delete. I'll save, close, and then reopen in Excel. And now we should see that I've got those icons for this. Well, let's go ahead and, oh yeah, question, go ahead. Yeah, we're going to do that for our next example. Yeah. Well, we're not going to create, we're going to go find just an image file and we'll bring that in. But yeah, if you could create the image file, then you certainly could do that as well. Yeah, could you use Microsoft Paint to do it? You're a glutton for punishment to do anything in Paint, but yes, you could do it with Paint. I actually use Paint quite a bit. Seems like whenever I need to do something, just manipulating pixels on an image, every other program is like a bazooka. Try to use a bazooka to kill a mosquito. But. Okay, what did I say we're going to do? Oh, let's go ahead now and actually make these buttons work, because right now, if I click on the button, it's going to say, hey, I'm trying to run something called xclear charts, and no can do. It's just not there. Well, I've got, oh, good thing I pasted those into Notepad, because I otherwise would have lost them when I copied that other stuff. So I just recopied those subs, and it's not too bad. If you don't have them, you can type it without too much trouble. So let's just go ahead and come in here to my Visual Basic editor. I've got two modules over here, but I'm going to go ahead and add a new module just for the ribbon stuff. So I'm going to insert module. I'm going to name this module ribbon X, mod _ ribbon X. And then I'm just going to paste those in. So I've got, it's a sub make chart. And then the tricky thing is this, control as iRibbon control. Because when you click on that, it's going to invoke this sub procedure, and the interpreter is going to pass a reference to the control that you passed in. So this is going to be an object that has properties. Does it have methods? Well, let's take a look. control. No, it's just got three properties. It's got something called context, an ID, and something called tag. And so those are three things that I can look at to see, how do I want to behave? In fact, some people are like, in fact, I think our author of our textbook does this. They're like, listen, just make one sub procedure that you use for handling all of the buttons in your ribbon that you click on, and then just have a select statement to look at the ID to find out what you want to do. So both of these buttons could call the same sub procedure, and then I could look at the control's ID to decide what do I want to run when this is the ID, what do I want to run when the other is the ID. Okay, but I have two separate ones. That's going to be fine. So I'm just going to have this do directly what I want it to do. I don't remember what it is. So let's see, clear data. We got one called make chart, and we got one called delete charts. Well, that's what I want to do. I want to make chart. And over here, I want to delete charts. And so now these two buttons should do just, because when we click on that button, it just calls make chart. When I click on this one, it calls delete charts. Now, we could have come over here to make chart, and as long as we have, this being passed to it, then we could call our make chart directly. But then make chart can no longer work from its hotkey. So I think we're much better off saying, let make chart just go the way it was, some hotkey attached to it. And we'll have kind of another hop to be able to get there from our ribbon. So I should be able to come here and clear the charts, bloop, and start making charts. Anything you see in the ribbon, like this little drop down in stuff, this is all stuff that you can do. So you can make them smaller. This is what happens if you say normal instead of large for size. Like make things drop down and have other choices here. This gets kind of complex, but if you can see it in the ribbon, that's something that you could do in the ribbon. You and Rhonda Bruin and some time could figure out how to do that. So all we're doing is seeing how do you make a tab, put a custom group on it, and make those buttons work. Now, let's go ahead and go make another group called data tools, and we'll have one for clear data. So I'm going to save my workbook, close my workbook, and then reopen here. Okay, so I'm going to make another group. So I'm just going to copy this group. Chart group, I'll change this to data group. Chart tools, data tools. Boop. This will be custom button 3. And we'll call this clear data. Action X clear data. I already have the icon for clearing the data used for clearing the charts. Maybe I'll go find that other big X. Oh, this is for delete. That one's not bad. Records, delete record. Sheet delete, that's the one I used. Where's delete cells? I think I like that one better. I'll use delete cells too. Oh, I think I told you we're gonna make our own. Actually, why don't we do this? Why don't we use this one for delete? And let's go see if we can find a better one for deleting a chart. So I'm gonna use this delete cells too. That's a pretty good one. We've got to make the callback. But now that I have now that I've already got some of the callbacks in there, I can copy that and modify those existing ones pretty easily. But let's see what it takes to go ahead and insert our own image. I think these are 32 by 32 pixels. Do that or 40 by 40. Let's go find an icon. Okay, so let's look for icon, delete chart. Look at that. That's way better. I'm going to go look at this one and I'm going to go see what this is. Ultimately, I've got to get this down to a 32 by 32 pixel image. Ready to use, download with Pro, add to cart, icon finder. That sounds expensive. There are some other icon sites that are like, it seems like Icon Finder was one of them that I used to like. See where this one is. Try icons, terms of use, requires author attribution, commercial use, personal educational use. This one looks great. It looks like I'm allowed to use it. So hopefully, quite often these icon sites have a way to pick what size. Free downloading begins in 2 seconds. SVG. SVG is a vector graphic. I don't know what the S stands for, but I need to have this as a PNG file, PNG or JPEG or something. So let's look here. Let me look for delete chart. And I'm looking for some way to get this as, I don't want to be too greedy. There's chart. I'll just choose one of these. I'm going to see if I can get these at, I want to be able to get this as a PNG file. That's not doing it either. Usually I find these a lot quicker. PNG. The noun project. Of course, these are free, they're black and white. Let's just see if one of these gives me a way to get this as a PNG. Anyone found a good icon that's a PNG?
Go to flaticon.com.
I always have a little a twinge in my stomach whenever I type in a URL that a student gave me. Did I tell you what happened that one time when I was a doctoral student? You guys will like this. It was back in the day of floppy diskettes. And students were having a hard time submitting their access databases to me because it just wouldn't quite fit on a floppy diskette. I said, not a problem, just compress it. You guys know how to use a compressed folder, but that's built into the operating system now. Back then you had to have other software. And so I said, just go get a copy of it somewhere. And someone says you can get it on shareware.net or shareware.com. So I typed in shareware.com, but I misspelled it. I left the E off of share, so it was shareware.com. And I went to a hardcore pornography site right there in class. And it's like, oh my gosh. And I tried to go back and it wouldn't go back. I tried to close the browser, it wouldn't close the browser. I finally pulled the cord on the power and just, the class thought it was hilarious. You know, I was probably as red as my robe is. And of course didn't have the robe at the time because I was still a doctoral student. Okay. And then chart, delete chart. Oops. So yeah, anytime a student gives me something to type in, I just think, oh boy, should I do this? Delete chart. 15 delete chart icons. That one looks great. Ah, good. PNG, and I want it at 3232. This is perfect. Premium subscription, attribution required for free download. Fantastic. Okay, so reporting, is that the one I really meant? I'm going to go ahead and open this up and just see if it's what I think it is, what I think it should be. Yeah, it looks pretty good. 32 by 32 pixel for deleting a chart. It's called reporting.png. That's a fine name. Okay, so remember now that, do we want to do that again? Does anyone want to do that again? Did I do it? Was it flaticon.com? I searched for delete chart. I selected the little download by one of these. Free download. Oh, I got to find out how to attribute the author. And then what did I do? Download. Free. Using it for the web. Oh, copy. Remember, you have to attribute pixel perfect. Okay, I think I got the thing copied. I'm not quite sure how to do this again, but is anyone saying, show this again? Excellent. Let me go ahead and paste the little attribution link in there. It's a URL, but I guess I'll attribute it right here. Okay, so let's get it put in here. So remember that our Excel workbook is a zip archive of a bunch of files. This is just another file that I have to put into the archive. So that file I downloaded is going to become a part of the workbook. Here's how I do it. Oh, look, there's an insert icons button. Insert icons. I'm going to find reporting.png. Open. And it's going to bring that icon right here. If I don't like the name reporting, I can change that right here. Right click and change ID. And I'm going to call that clear charts. Press enter. So now, instead of sheet delete, I'll put in here clear charts. If I didn't change the name, I could put in reporting, but I think changing the name makes sense here. Now, you see how this says image MSO? That's saying this is a Microsoft Office object, but this one is not a Microsoft Office object. And so I'm just going to delete the MSO part. I'll just say image, and that will identify one of the images that's a part of this workbook. And so now that image should show in once I save. So we're going to save this. And close. We come back to Excel and reopen. Okay, so I need another one of these. Okay, so I had clear charts. Did I call the other one clear data? You know, it'll always tell me that it's not there. Yeah, clear data. And that one should be deleting my excess data, which I think will be in your show data. Oh, maybe I didn't actually ever make the delete data in this one. Got delete charts. So maybe we'll just delete columns B through whatever. I'm going to just go ahead and write the code in this one. So what I want to do on this one, I want to see the sheet is called sheets.compare. Whoops, sheets compare. Dot columns or dot range B1 through Z1. With a little more work, we could go figure out exactly how much data. I'm just assuming that's going to be enough. That entire column. Dot delete. And ENTIRECOLUMN. And let me just go ahead and run that line and see if it does the trick. No error. Cleared off the data. I choose another one, it comes in just fine. Okay, so I think that should do the trick. Should be able to make a chart, make some charts here, clear the charts off, clear the data, and we are totally running. Questions? So that's the primer on modifying the ribbon. And of course, you can modify your own copy of Excel through the interface. So if I choose here, File Options, Customize Ribbon. So any changes I do here to the ribbon, in fact, I can, we could add a tab over here, a new tab group. What am I going to put in this one? Custom group. I can come over here and choose custom tabs and groups. There's some way for me to put on existing macros. Commands, not in the ribbon, all commands, macros right here. So I could come here and say, I want to put delete charts right here. I've got some new tab, new group, and it has delete charts. But when I make a change here, that is this instance of Excel, right? So that's going to always be here when I have this. It doesn't matter which workbook it's open. That's just a new thing on this installation of Excel. What we did makes them so that whoever has the workbook, when they open it, the ribbon modification will follow the workbook. Now, our last thing to do then is to see how to make an Office add-in. Any of our existing projects would make a good add-in? Not really. To be a good add-in, you want it to be something that doesn't really depend on the existing structure of the worksheet. So let's just go ahead and make a new workbook that will, well, I'm going to make this, let's go ahead and make this into an add-in. The buttons won't actually work, but you'll see that it would work. So here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to choose File, Save As. And the type that I'm going to save it as, more options. So the Save As type is not going to be an XLSM. Back to cancel. I'm going to save this the way it is first. Cancel, try it again, save, Control S. I want to make sure I've got this saved. And then Save As. And instead of an XLSM, we want to be an XLAM, an Excel add-in. XLAM, Excel add-in. So it's like partway down. And by default, it's going to try to put it in your Excel add-ins folder. I think that's a fine place to put this. I'm going to call this chart add-in. Now, that's it. I have just made an add-in. But what does the add-in actually get? And the answer is the add-in gets all the VBA and it gets the ribbon modification. The worksheets do not come with the add-in. My add-in could make a worksheet into the whatever workbook, but because the add-in has to work on whatever worksheet gets opened, it doesn't, the add-ins from this workbook don't come along. So now let me go ahead and close this, and you'll notice, what is this? This is an XLSM. It didn't like change this file to that. It like exported that, and that's the way it works. You open up your XLSM, like the source, and then when you save it as an XLAM, it's like you're publishing it as an add-in. I think you can edit the XLAM as well, but you'll notice that we're still XLSM here. I'm going to close this, and I'm going to go install that. So new tab is there because I added it, customizing my ribbon. Let's go ahead and add that census tab by making it an add-in. We'll choose File. Actually, we can do it faster by coming to Developer, Excel Add-ins. So on my Developer tab, I'm going to come to Excel Add-ins. And I am going to browse. Did I call it Charts Added? Is it showing already? Yeah, chart. Okay, so it's already showing because it put it, I guess because it put it in the right location. Excel is saying, yeah, you got that right there. I'm going to say okay. And now that tab is here. All that code is here as well. Control Shift, or let's see, Alt F11. What is it? Alt F11. So here is that charts added.xlam. Because I haven't put a password on it. Oh, I may have lied. It looks like the sheets do come with it. So those sheets are in this add-in. I'm not sure how to access them. Probably this workbook would do it. Anyway, but the code is here as well. Now, how many of you have had an add-in, installed an add-in like this one? I guess you all have because it's part of the class. You open it and it says, sorry, you gotta have a password to get to this one. You might want to do that as well. I'll show you how to do that next. But if I come to try to run these, so subscript out of range, it just doesn't know how to get to the compare sheet. So maybe with some work, we could figure that out. So the point is you're making code here that would work on any worksheet that it's a part of. So nice thing about this is that if you've got something that you need to have other people use, and you're having trouble like getting them the XLSM file because their email is stripping it out or whatever, we think, oh, the world's coming to an end, you have a macro. If you make this as an XLAM and they have to go through an installation process, it's a lot different in terms of the way that virus protection software lets it through, because they know if you're installing this, it's not just, you're not just opening a file that might do something, you're going through an installation process. Okay, let's see about the password. I'm going to close. Oh, I guess I'm going to open up my add-in. So I'm opening up the XLSM file again. Chart ribbon here. And I'm going to put a password on the code. Here's how you do it. Alt F11. I'm going to come to Tools, VBA Project Properties. And then there's a Protection tab. I'll come to Protection. I will lock project for viewing, and then I will put a password on this. Putting on password, PASSWRD. So now, when I close this and reopen it, let's see. Close. You want to save it, reopen it. If I try to come to the VBA, it's now prompting me for that password. When I supply it, it should release it. So now I can get there. So that was Tools, VBA Project Properties, Protection. And I'm going to take it off. Otherwise, when I upload this, people won't be able to get to the examples and they'll curse me. I do not want to be cursed. Oh, so that is working with the ribbon and how to make an add-in. You should know that that password protection you're putting on there is not secure. If someone really wants to get to the code, they are a couple of Google searches away from being able to crack that password and get into it. So don't put anything there that you don't really want a bad actor to have. Questions? All right, I will see you on Saturday at my home for pizza from noon to 2. Feel free to come, bring a guest. Class dismissed. You're too kind, you're too kind. Yeah, go ahead.
Image that's bigger or smaller.
Yeah, if you put an image that's larger than 32 by 32, it's going to shrink it down to fit in there. And, you know, it's not going to look great, but it'll be okay. You would email me. Yeah. I think what happened was there was
for some reason my image didn't go just like
think of this file. That would be also my mind. It's a real hassle if I get those.
I was just trying to figure out
Get it class.
because you did with Gmail. Oh, you're doing it. Yeah, I'm doing it with Ron. Thing to do. And we can also, if you edit, we can.
Mine
Yes, that's a bit of work.